What's the genesis, the origin story of how this building got a free paint job or whatever you call it?
I was sitting in, actually in Shul of all places, talking to a guy named Jeremy Goldscheider, who actually was working with Artists for Israel. And Artists for Israel, he was telling me about some of the murals they've been doing. And I said, I have a building that basically takes up an entire city block in Culver City. If you want something visible, and we want to do something significant, this is right after October 7th, why don't we think about my building? And I think he was kind of shocked that I offered it up. And so I basically said to him, I said, as long as we don't have to talk about it, because I work in TV, and as you know, I don't want to talk about something for 16 months and then nothing happens. So I said to him, let's show me designs. I'll agree to a design that I'm comfortable with, and let's put it up, but we have to make sure it's something that can't be ripped down. So that was what we did, and it's actually vinyl, so you can't rip it down. We've had a lot of incidents, but I think people have sort of given up and accepted the fact that it's not going anywhere.
Uh-huh. Let's go back to the time when the billboards and
my fans.
and the posters were first put up. Were posters being left there? Were the posters being respected at the time that they were originally put up on telephone poles and on?
Oh, I see. Yeah. So I mean, it was almost like a social media trend in a weird way. People would more fans. People would come and they would, as you know, and it was pretty viral. They would rip down the hostage posters, and so the idea here was, why don't we use the design of those kidnap posters as an inspiration to do something that is permanent and can't be ripped down? So it was definitely a response to that kind of like viral trend, unfortunately, that was taking place, and so that's what you see behind me.
What was the climate like in Hollywood at the time when very, very quickly after October 7th, all these protests against Israel came up, and Israel was victimized by these essentially marauders and attacks, 1,200 people killed in a day, and then suddenly the Arabs and Marxists were out on the streets. What was the attitude in Hollywood like?
I mean, it was a disaster. I mean, I think, look, the day of October 7th or 8th, when people saw it was a mass slaughter of innocent civilians, I think there was some sympathy there. But it very quickly turned. And I think I expected Hollywood to respond differently. Obviously, there is a strong Jewish population in Hollywood.
But not necessarily Zionistic.
Not Zionistic, apparently. And I think it's actually kind of... it was pretty shocking and really disheartening. I have to say, like, it's a disappointment I don't think I'll ever get over in my life, just because there's a lot of leaders in this community that I had looked up to in the past, and they let me down. They didn't do anything. They didn't step up, and they sort of went into hiding. And I don't come from that, so I come from a different type of background, I guess, where you stand up. I'm very proud to be Jewish. I'm very proud to be a Zionist. I have no idea how that term got flipped around, and so it was an interesting, weird opportunity that presented itself. It's not something that I don't consider myself a leader, of a Jewish community or anything along those lines. But I guess when these things present themselves, you kind of have to speak out. So.
Why haven't more people in Hollywood in general, who are generally interested in human rights and certainly against massacres and things of this nature, particularly against a liberal democracy like Israel, why do you suppose the attitude, the favor didn't fall more openly towards Israel?
I think I think it's a complicated answer. I think, though, the short version is, my guess is that their kind of identity, I think their Jewish identity probably isn't as firm or as kind of worked through as maybe it could be. I mean, I had the benefit of strong Jewish education. I have no idea what sort of background a lot of these folks grew up in and what kind of lessons they were taught. So it's hard for me to judge. But what I can say is that clearly their connection to Israel has somewhere along the way, there's a bit of a disconnect between being an American Jew and being an Israeli Jew. I was brought up to believe that those two things were sort of inseparable, and I think somewhere along the way there seems to be this weird severance that's happened.
But the global jihad of which Hamas is part of, in fact, Hamas's goal is not just Israel, but the global caliphate, a worldwide Islamic future. One would think that people would be, especially Americans, who have suffered not only 9/11, but there was an attack on El Al 10 months after at Los Angeles airport, and that London, that people in entertainment would be more, should I say, patriotic in terms of defending democracy against tyranny.
Look, I mean, there's two types of people in Hollywood. There you go, free Palestine. There's Jews, there's non-Jews, and then I guess there's people who just don't care about anything, you know. So I think the Jewish community in Hollywood I don't think they consider themselves Jews first. I think they consider themselves Jews second or third. So I don't know how much of a priority it really is. And I think the thing you have to understand about entertainment, which I know you know, and I'm sure a lot of people out there know, it's about optics, you know. And so, you know, putting yourself out there, taking a position, it's not really what we do in Hollywood. And by we, I'm not talking about myself, but it's just it's not something I think that's it's not something. I think it's considered bold if you're a certain person, and it's not considered bold if you're another person. So I think the thing you're getting at is Jews are supposed to be quiet. We're supposed to shut up, and we're supposed to take it, and we're supposed to kind of just keep moving forward, you know. And I think that we've reached a tipping point where American Jews are finally starting to realize that attitude's probably not going to work, you know.